Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us for the WikiTree Challenge Weekend Chat. This is for Challenge Week 15, and it is our last challenge of the year. So thanks for taking part. It's been fun so far. We are definitely halfway to getting Angie to getting her 1,000 connections badge. So just
Wow.
so far on the score sheet, we are now at 20 participants, and we have added 100 and let me go ahead and refresh this 170 profiles. And so the CC7 for Angie is currently at 497.
Wow.
Ooh.
Yeah, so much fun
Wow.
to get started. And I just wanted to share um, if if you haven't heard of it, one of the great tools is the WikiTree Sorcerer extension for, I think it's Chrome and for Safari. So if you haven't used
I
that
love
or
it.
checked it out, check that out. It's a
Oh,
really great extension tool to use for adding profiles. And um, anyway, we'll go ahead and add that link in here to the chat for y'all. And
That is mostly for family search and ancestry. Is that right?
um,
no. It's very oh, go on, I'm sorry.
there's yeah, they've expanded the number of websites that you can use it
Yes.
on. So yeah, it's
I
definitely.
made I made my trees for my Nelson and my Bigelow lines public for Ancestry now.
Oh,
And
cool. Okay.
I know for a fact there's errors in it, but maybe I'll
Yeah.
Oh,
All right. So let's see. I just wanted to share too that we have 3 bounties claimed so far. So the first set of bounties that are available for y'all to claim is when you make a unique connection for an individual to the tree. So each line, you have an opportunity. Once that's claimed, try to move on maybe to the next one and get a distinct connection made. So it's just kind of a neat way to have a bounty points added to you. And then the next opportunity for bounty points is interesting finds. So as you add to the interesting finds, make sure you sign off with the 4 tildes so we can award those points. And then about halfway through the week, which is tomorrow or Monday, Aon or Celia will add to the brick wall section of this page and also to the G2G post the ancestors or family relations that they've said, okay, let's challenge the participants to see if they can break this brick wall. And once those are out there, if you break the brick wall, you claim that out on the G2G and we'll get you your bounty points. And that will show up here on the score sheet in the bounty points column. So that's just a fun little challenge for the participants. And so looking at the score sheet, Dodd, you're the lead. We've got you
Wow.
down for 37 profiles added so far. So that's wonderful. Thank you so much.
Congratulations.
wow.
I
Well,
heard,
I prepped uh, the parents and grandparents of John Holgram
oh,
before we
nice.
started.
Nice.
So, but I didn't spend a lot of time. I think I had 8 people or something. And since then, I've been going down. Well, I added all of uh, John's siblings and their spouse. I think I got all their spouses. I haven't gone to mostly. I haven't gone to the parents of the spouses, and then who's it? Uh, I went down a rabbit hole on uh, Richard Nelson's brother,
Orchard?
turned out he had, his brother had a wife who had come from the area of Northwest Iowa that my dad did.
Oh,
So I, added a bunch of siblings and the siblings and their spouses, and I found a couple of the spouses that go back into Sweden, so I'm going to follow that trail. And then I just haven't figured out how to add to my score the people I added to the CC7 about 3 years ago, because
Oh, well, those wouldn't count. It's just
I know
for-
they don't count. I think it's a great granduncle of Angie's settled in the town my wife grew up in.
which
Oh.
town?
So Irwin, Pennsylvania, Westmoreland County. And so a number of years ago, I was just going, I'd filled out most of my family, so I was just, going through the cemetery that her mother was buried in, and just, adding names adjacent, and I started seeing Svensson and Olson and going, what is this? And discovered that, yeah, there was a Swedish church in that little town.
That's
Ah,
really
And
neat.
it's Rosenblum was the guy, is the name the guy took, and they still have an appliance store on Main Street. So yeah, I've seen that name for years and years, right? So
That's
that is
great.
fascinating. I have a couple of stories out of some of my great uncles and things like that I plan to write into novels, and it will be absolutely fascinating to do with all the additional things that y'all are finding. But John Holmgren, I have a story from my uncle who's passed now, that John Holmgren was a pretty tough, rough person, and he was a blacksmith. This is my great-grandfather. And evidently my uncle was also pretty rough, and at 15, he broke into my great-grandfather's blacksmith shop and was goofing around, and my great-grandfather John Holmgren caught him, and he chased him around the farm, whipping at him with the horse and buggy. I only just learned this a few years ago,
Wow.
and it was like, whoa, rough times. But my uncle told me that story, and there was a twinkle in his eye, because I had asked him, why did you go into the military before you were old enough? And he told me that story. And then my grandmother marched my very difficult to handle uncle at 15 years old down and enlisted him.
Wow. Oh my goodness. That is really interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, huh.
He fought in World War II, and was in the Air Force until he retired.
Wow. Huh.
Yep.
I love hearing those anecdotes and stories from their, history. That's great.
It's fun though to hear about this stuff, because I'm like, what do you mean that there was a great uncle in Pennsylvania? Because that would be going backward unless I misunderstood that. So I have to follow up on what you said, because they all came like through there and then into Iowa and Minnesota. So I'm very interested to see what you found.
I picked the Stacy line to work on because I have a Stacy ancestor. So that's where I've been adding
I have a state.
Well, it's not, it's this, she,
Oh,
I
her
guess it was
second
a second marriage. Yeah, and so I worked off of that. That's what I love about the CC7. You just fall down these sideways lines, and you can grow it out and find all these other people. So yeah.
Oh, I found one that I haven't had time to pursue either, but it's back in the 1777 when my 5 times great-grandfather, I found a record of him having to pay a fine to the Carrsfairn Parish Church in Scotland because he had fathered a child off of his servant girl.
Oh, uh-huh.
Yeah, that one
Wow.
shocked me. And nobody knew about it. Nobody in our family. And so there's a whole new line for me to explore.
Wow, that is really interesting. Oh my
Yeah.
goodness, yeah.
Angie, have you found do you have a Civil War ancestor? A soldier?
Yes.
Okay.
In it definitely in the Nelson line. I at least I believe my great grandfather was John Andrew Nelson, and I believe he and potentially brothers. Um, so John Andrew was 1843, if I remember right, and then my grandfather was Burchard, and so John Andrew would 1842, right in there. There we go. And my cousin Deborah had found something about the Pennsylvania 77th. So I'm curious to see if that proves out. And then I think he had some siblings that would have, but yeah.
Because that looking for a Civil War soldier in my ancestry is what got me into this mess. House and what I found my great great grandfather was in the 16th U.S. Infantry, 3 years. What I have not figured out is why my grandmother never told me about that.
Yeah.
Understand, when I was in first and second grade, we lived in Lynchburg, Virginia, and
Oh
she and my
wow.
grandfather came and visited Appomattox and never mentioned.
Huh.
And she knew it. He was county attorney. He was an officer in the GAR, and they lived in the same town. She knew he was in the Civil War. So you wonder, why did she never mention that? But
Right.
okay.
Talking about it. I think William Harrison Bigelow, my great grandfather, he might have, but I do not know. I haven't explored, like that line was so well documented through, especially the Bigelow. There's two giant Bigelow books, and so it's very well documented. So I hate to say this, but it wasn't as interesting to me as the ones that were mysteries, and so I haven't gone and read up. So I'd like to find that out. And then my grandmother out of the Moffat line, um, I I think that there could have been in that line as well, but I'm pretty certain in the Nelson line there was. I know in the well, we call it Hartshorn here, but it was actually Hartshorn out of England. That lineage, there's a lot of pastors and people that were very patriotic as well as the Nelson line, a lot in that. So I'm don't know, but I would assume there would be something in the Hartshorn line. But the Holmgren line, they came in the 1860s. I don't think they would have been in it at all,
Mhm.
So I don't know, not that I would know of.
And what are you working on? Or Amanda or Dee, Bruno? What's everybody else working on?
I was on the Nelsons for a while, then I moved on, and now I'm with the Bigelows.
What do you want to know on the Bigelows? There is a Moses Bigelow, and there is a potential, and I'm pretty sure we're related in there, of someone that was on the Underground Railroad. And but the interesting thing is when you look through history, that name gets reused and reused. So the conductor on the Underground Railroad name, Moses Bigelow, may have referred to more than one person over a period of about 110 years.
Wow. Oh, wow. That's really interesting. That'd be a really interesting thing to research there.
Yeah, I found him in a museum in I'm trying to remember where I was, St. Louis maybe, or Indianapolis. And it had a picture of the Black woman that was acting as his driver to pretend she was his slave to get her into Canada.
Wow.
So
Wow.
that's a pretty famous story. I'll have to look it up.
Very
But
cool.
yeah.
Looks like Amanda, she says she's gotten stuck on a rabbit hole. And he says working on Amalia Svensdotter ancestors. So that's where they're working.
I want a picture of Amalia. I've got one of her when she's old. But I want one of her, again, when she's young. I think I've got one somewhere in my picture albums with her family. And the reason it's so amazing is that my daughter is like a doppelganger
Oh,
to my,
wow.
and there was one picture hanging on my aunt and uncle's wall, and my aunt changed them out and before they passed, and I never got to find that picture again. I'd asked her, when you're ready to pass things on, may I have that photo? Because she looks just like my daughter, and I would love to find that photo again.
That's
But
amazing. Yeah, that would be cool.
I do have one, but it's in a group photo, and she's beautiful, but it's not as close up as the one that was on my aunt's wall. Can you tell me about the bounties? I didn't understand what those were.
Oh, okay. They're just so we have the points that people get for adding profiles. That's right here in this
Mhm.
column. That shows the results of profiles added, and then profiles edited is just tallied. It's not added to the total points for somebody. But bounty points just are a fun little additional thing that we award throughout the week. So the brick wall we talked about, those that get the most points. So Aowen and Celia look through all the branches and find one that's a little challenging and say, okay, we'll try to break through on this one. And so we just award the most points for those 8 profiles, and that get broken down, brick walls. And then the interesting finds, we give some bounty points for those as well. So, interesting finds are just newspaper articles that people find about the stories of the ancestors. And so that's another way. And then the final way is what's people are getting now is when they make a distinct connection to the tree. So when we got started, I think there were a couple lines that were already connected to the tree, but what we say is another connection. So even the ones that were already connected to the tree, we say if you can make another connection, a new one for that line, then we give you a bounty point. And so, yeah.
And what do the bounty points do? Get you badges or?
Yeah, you just get more points basically. And then the top scoring person for the week does get a badge, the MVP badge,
Nice.
most valuable player. So yeah, it's just a fun way to award the work that they're doing out there. So yeah.
Oh, that's pretty nice. That's fun. I like the gamification of it.
Yeah. And I did want to mention that there are a few suggestions, not very many. So so WikiTree Plus is an additional tool that we have on WikiTree. It's a database errors or suggestions that it looks out there and says, tells us if something's wrong on the profile, or gives us a clue maybe. So like telling us, oh, this person's on Wikidata, which is part of Wikipedia, and here's a possible father or a possible mother. So those are just some of the things it does for us, but there's only a few here. There will be, so each week we get a new set of suggestions from the tool, and so there'll be a new set of suggestions next week. I think it's about Monday, Tuesday, and then there'll be another set of suggestions the following week, and that'll be the wrap up of the challenge suggestions that are generated, so we can make sure that the profiles don't have any errors out there. So if somebody's interested, that's another place that they could find something to work on. And I actually found my profile to work on in the needs profiles created category. So we have categories that group profiles together, and here we have 9 profiles that somebody's indicated, okay, I'm not going to work on this line and I'm working on this other part. Somebody else could add to this. So somebody wants to go in there, they can go in there and start working on adding profiles to these people.
If they want a tip, I know if haven't looked at Marjorie Gilbert Anderson yet, but I did not know that they were Catholic.
Oh, uh-huh.
I found that out when we were in Scotland. I was at the Mitchell Library and I found the birth of my two times great grandmother in the Catholic parish registers. I was just really surprised.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, well, I can take a look at that too, because I've used Scottish. I do some Scottish profiles myself, so I'll take a look at that.
Yeah, and they show that they came from Ireland, and this is where I'm fairly certain, that particular line probably went back and forth with the Ulster plantation and all. But then my 3 times great grandparents were there, but then you get into both fathers in the 4 times, and their names, there's like 40 different men in that same area of the same name.
Oh my goodness, isn't that frustrating? Oh
yeah.
Oh.
I do place and a name study, I don't think I can figure out without doing that.
Yeah.
Which there's one that's an Isaac. I think it's an Isaac Anderson. And then there's another, and then of course the Gilbert. And I'm just like, holy cow.
Why do we have to use the same names?
Yeah.
Oh.
But it does show that her brother was born in Ireland.
Okay.
That helped for me to go, okay, well, they were probably in the 16 to hundreds plantation going back and forth then.
Right. That is so interesting, isn't it?
And the particular timing was perfect, for them coming over and then working there at, I think it was Spring Hill, or it was Spring something for the for where he worked at the iron foundry. And he was my 3 times great grandfather was a carter, and that meant he carried or carted things. So that I can give you tips and hints on that, because I found that at the Mitchell Library.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, and feel free to add to this page as well, Angie. There's actually a section if you want to add notes from guest star for you. So yeah, feel free.
I'm sorry.
Please do.
Okay.
Oh yeah. I should have mentioned it earlier. Actually, I kind of forget about that's there.
Yeah. Well, the hard part, and you guys are so awesome for doing this, because the hard part is, I'm running the International Institute of Genealogical Studies, and as the executive director, I work like 80 plus hours. And so I've watched 15 minutes of the intro to learn about WikiTree, and then gone in and tried to do, these things. So it's truly a gift to have people finding the real sources for these for me, because it's hard to sleep, let alone finish a video.
Yeah, I know what you mean. That's a common theme that the professional genealogists that we do this for, is they say they don't have time to work on their own ancestry. So yeah.
So it's a real blessing. Thank you. I will go in and write some notes. So
yeah, we have so much fun. We all it's such a great way to learn from each other too. We have the Discord for real-time chat, and so we can really definitely collaborate real time and help each other and learn about different resources or tools or websites out there. So, it really is a great way to learn more about genealogy and how to do it
Can you
more
put the
effectively.
Discord chat, or where do I find that? I didn't get to that part.
Oh, I'll give you the link here. It's right on the page here on the help
Oh,
Discord. But
okay.
I'll drop it into the Zoom chat for you.
Okay. While we were talking, I already picked up the WikiTree sourcer.
Yeah, it's a really it's so well, it's
Oh, I
like
love it.
WikiTree in a way, is that there's so many options or ways to use it, and you can really fine tune
Yeah.
how it writes the sources.
And what I do is, like, if I'm on Ancestry and I find a good resource, I go and click on Sourcer and go see if there's anything in Family Search, because a lot of people are only on Family Search and they're not on Ancestry, and I usually find them both together, which is fantastic. That's when I put it in my Sourcer, because I love doing Sourcering instead of bios.
That's
Right.
cool.
Yeah, so
Realize-
here's a profile I did. So what Anna was talking about is if you go to an ancestry record,
Mhm.
so here's the marriage record. If it exists on Family Search as well, you can use a sourcer and it'll search for this record in that other website.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it's really very powerful because, like Ann said, the Family Search is free, so it's a great to be able to have it available on as a record for people to view, since not everybody has an Ancestry subscription.
Oh, that's very cool.
Yeah. So
And if you want more information, you should check on the WikiTree's YouTubes. They have a really good YouTube on Sorcerer and
yeah,
how to use it.
it's actually on that help page too. They have it
Oh,
linked, the
okay.
YouTube video.
I subscribed to it and again started a couple videos, and
There's just so much.
my phone rings and everything goes wild, and
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's hard to stay up with everything.
yeah, and it's a little bit more complicated. WikiTree's a little bit more complicated than
Hmm.
basic stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
Amanda says, do you not have access to primary sources in the US like we do in Australia? I'm not sure what she means.
Well, different states do have things like birth, marriage, or death records, but it's not standardized. It's not available in every state the same way. They didn't all start recording those things in the same time frame. I mean, it's really
Lots
No,
of states have only an index,
yeah,
Right.
which
Yes.
is, you don't get this good stuff.
yeah. Yeah,
So,
see, I'm from Washington. I mean, I spent a lot of years in Washington State, and that's where a lot of my family is from. And so I love Washington records. They have a digital online uh, records available. You can pull up the actual marriage record, and it has all the information you could want. They even have census records, but then there's other states that have nothing. So it really is kind of feast or famine depending on the state.
yeah. Pennsylvania has this deal. Ancestry put on a bunch of Pennsylvania death certificates
Mm-hmm.
through the 40s, I think. And the deal they have with, I subscribe to Ancestry so I can see it, but it's available to any Pennsylvania resident.
Yeah.
Or if your computer is telling them that you're a Pennsylvania
Yeah,
resident.
exactly. Yeah. And there's cities like New York City has really been working hard to digitize like death records, birth records, and marriage records. So that's really, if you have any ancestors that lived, born, married, or died in New York City, that's a really great free website. And this is just
Ohio has a lot of open records too.
yeah. So this is just a
I love
chance for me to
Ohio.
plug the WikiTree source library. If you haven't checked that out yet, that's a really great thing to check out. There's a whole section on family genealogies. So as books are out there, that were written, family genealogies out there, and they're available on Internet Archive or HathiTrust or Google Books. WikiTree volunteers add an entry for them on the source library so that if you go into one of these books, there's a space page for it. And then you can also see if there's any errata for the item that's listed out here, which is a really great resource. It lists out all the different places that you can find that book, because sometimes if Internet Archive goes away, you could check HathiTrust. So it's just a really great tool. Another way you can use it is if you use the citation that's provided down below here, it links back to the actual space page. And what that does is it gives us a way to then see all the profiles that are linked to that space page. So
Wow.
you can kind of see how that works. And then it has listed here the different states and countries and also different topical projects. So definitely check that out. It's a really great resource.
I'll tell you, there's one problem on the family history that was written for the Milligan family in my lineage. And there's somebody who wrote that back, whatever it was, 100 and some odd years ago, didn't get the correct father of John Milligan. They have his father listed as being born in 1700, and having done my research in Scotland, his father was born in 1725.
Oh,
And his
wow.
name,
Yeah.
and his name is
Ouch.
Alexander. And everyone online is
Yeah.
listing 1800.
Oh.
Whatever. I'm not even sure it's his grandfather, the 1700 fellow. And he went back and erected a memorial stone, which I have photos of all over the place on Ancestry and My Heritage and things. But he's my 4 times great grandfather, John Milligan, and his father was Alexander Milligan. He's the one who fathered the servant girl's child. And John Milligan went back and erected a memorial stone for his mother and his father. And he has listed on that stone 1725 for his birth. And
yeah.
it was erected by the son, John Milligan.
Yeah.
So, there's some things there that I'm like, well, I think he would know more than people 200 years, 300 years later.
Yeah.
So,
Incorrect DAR lineages are also a wonderful source of errors.
yes. And I think some of those are in there.
Oh, yeah. I've found it. Oh, by the way, I did a little scratching around for Civil War people. William Harrison Bigelow was a little young.
Was he?
Because he was born in 47. But he had a half brother, Stephen, who was a musician in the 3rd Michigan Infantry. So
I didn't know that.
And the other one the Nelson I looked for, and his they've got his obituary on Find a Grave, and it says nothing about being a soldier in it.
I think my cousin might have written. So.
Okay.
No.
Well, no, this looked contemporary to when it had been,
Oh. We'll
it was like something they had found printed somewhere when he died. And you know.
Maybe more like your mother, why they didn't mention it when they knew it.
Yeah.
Oh, obituaries mentioned it if they had been, at that time, because most of these are small town newspapers,
Unless
and
they were on the other side and they've,
well, no, this was
yeah.
And
No, I just
he
mean
moved.
sometimes it was.
He moved. It said he moved when he was 19, which would have been about the time that.
Yeah.
So
I'm just
I'll do a
saying,
little more digging, but it looks
sometimes
like he
people
he
did
moved
hide that.
away. So, and it was like, I think to Iowa or Michigan or something, Iowa or Minnesota or something, something
in
to
Iowa.
the west at the time. So
He moved to Iowa
yeah, and it looks like he moved, around
that time.
1860 or so. So,
Okay.
yeah.
I'd have to go back and look at my tree that I have to remember that, but that's the only thing I could think of. And I know that David Nelson had fought in the War of 1812, and his father, Thomas Nelson, was in the Revolution. So I'm curious if any of his brothers might have, but I don't know because it seems like the family all kind of moved together a lot, And then they'd pick up the married families that they married into and they'd take them with them too.
Whole tribe.
Yeah. So when they get into Minnesota, I was just talking yesterday with a new student, and we really found out some interesting things together in that my grandmother's family and then my grandfather's family came together, and there was farms all over Ottertail, Minnesota, that whole county, with my various family names all over.
That's
So
great.
I'd like to do like a little summer tour of where those farms
Places
were.
are. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, those were the people I was adding first. So
Yeah. And
Nice.
I've got some land records scurried away that I've got to attach somewhere sometime, but yeah, that's a factor.
Oh, and I did want to mention to everybody, we do have WikiTree volunteers that will do will transcriptions. So sometimes you'll find a will, and if it's lengthy, you can actually create a space page out there and attach it to the ancestor. And then we have volunteers that will actually transcribe that for you. So if you need that done, be sure to add a note in the needs help section. We'll reach out to those that need that. Another opportunity for a free space page is to talk about conflation issues, or an issue like you're talking about the birth date being wrong on an ancestor that has so many places out on public trees that are incorrect. So that's another opportunity to use a free space page, is to outline your, the research and explain why this conclusion was reached, so that it's not taking up room on the actual ancestor profile. Just some ideas for y'all. And I want to say again, if anybody has a cemetery that they would like a space page for, or if you want to start a place or name study, I'm happy to help with that. So feel free to reach out. All right. Well, if nobody has anything else they want to share, we'll go ahead and close up and let everybody get back to
Yes.
adding profiles.
Yes, I'm looking into Pope 3 because one of your ancestors was in World War I, and he died in France during the D-Day, and I want to see if it's true or not.
Who was that?
I don't. It's. I'm trying to find. It's. Orvis Kirkland Nuller. Nodler.
I don't
I
know
don't
that.
know.
I know
It's
my uncle Paul died in Vietnam, but I don't know of anybody who died in the World War One. That'll be
right. Yeah, I'm still. It's. Yeah, I'm still looking into.
Yeah. So yeah, if
Yeah.
you do come across any military profiles, please be sure to add to that section of the page.
Yeah.
Really
Right.
appreciate that because we like to share that at the reveal. And then also be sure to add your interesting finds because we want to
All right.
make sure
Yeah.
to have
Right.
that information. Well, thank you
Yep.
everybody for joining us. And Angie, thank you again for joining us. That's great. We love to have the guest via
I'm just
here.
loving this.
All right. Well, everybody have a great weekend and we will see you all hopefully at the challenge wrap up, which would be next Thursday, the 12th at noon Eastern time. And then of course we'll have the reveal scheduled for Wednesday, December 18th, and that's at 8 p.m. Eastern. So we'll see you around the tree and hopefully out on Discord. Bye.
Yep. Bye.